PR Connections Radio presents
Since 1978, the National Youth Advocate Program, known as NYAP, has provided vital social services to children, families, and communities in a number of states throughout the nation. NYAP is a private, nonprofit organization committed to caring for people, connecting communities, and promoting peace. Among its many services are foster care programs that provide loving homes for children in need and give everyday people the opportunity to be part of something bigger than themselves.
If you're broken, you...
All righty. Dana, are we cutting around all this?
Yeah, my screen is black.
Yeah, mine too. Just hold on. She's going to have to cut all this out, I guess. Hello? All right, welcome to the Brisco Bridge to Foster Care in Nevada. I'm your host, Trenton Brisco. And I want to remind everyone up front, I'm a full disclaimer right away. We are not experts here. And the information about fostering can vary state by state. This podcast is simply here to help bridge the gap between those who don't know much about the system and want to learn and those who may be considering fostering themselves. So today I am excited to introduce a very special guest, Codie Scheinost. Codie grew up here in Las Vegas and spent a long time in the foster care system. So he's here to share his story, his experiences, and give us a real honest perspective from how he's lived. So let's dive into it. Codie, say hello to everybody. How are we doing today, bud?
How you guys doing? I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. So Codie, can you share a little bit about yourself? How long were you in the system? Just some details that you care to share.
Well, I don't even know where to start. I guess
Well,
story short. Oh, I'm 29. I've lived
29.
in Vegas my whole life. I've been pretty much in and out of the foster care system since I was about 4 or 5 years old. And to recap, I guess what I'm into for now, I like to work on cars, do car restorations, and I fight amateurly sometimes as well. So,
Fight amateurly. What is that about?
well, I just fight sometimes, I guess, for some places on YouTube. And I used to fight a couple of years ago for Skipper Kelp's Fight Capital, but that was mainly at the tail end of when I was in foster care, and also like a couple years after. And I was also a coach there for a short, brief period of time.
Now, Codie, when you were in foster care, you were never a part of my MMA training program, right?
No, but I believe that's how I got to know some of your kids as well, because you guys came to the same places that we did in Boys Town.
Oh, okay. And then we kind of knew each other that way, and then I got you. Okay. Cool. So what are some things that people may not understand about the foster care system?
From my experience, at least, I don't know how it is now, but I guess just the lack of attention that some of us kids got, and I guess the lack of, like love, and just that home feeling, the welcomingness that a kid would need growing up. It was very hard for me to blend in or I guess stick out in ways that, a normal kid in a normal family would, just because, being bounced around from place to place and whatnot. Like I said, I know it's probably different now, but I just felt like my voice was never really heard when I was a kid.
Well, I would think that maybe it's not too much different now. It just all really comes down to the luck of the draw and what family you find yourself with, and how you're treated by that family. I know that me personally, I'm always looking for more quality people to become foster homes. And I also want to make sure I train them and tell them things, not train them, but just really instill upon them ways to help and understand you kids that come from the system. I know it's a lot different than just your normal situation, and I think that's key. And I think you brought that up. Like, so do you remember how many homes that you've been to? Like, do you have a number at all? Any ideas?
I was in a lot. Yeah, I was probably about 5 or 6.
Okay.
That's not including like the times that I spent in West Care or child, just due to the fact of, I guess the house is not working out or issues. I guess when I was younger, I didn't understand why I kept getting bounced from place to place, but just based on like memories and stuff like that, it has to do with, the people that are fostering a family and kid to kid. But that was a lot that played a part when I was younger as well. Not having a solid place to stay and not having like a mother or father figure I could really count on, because after a while it became to like, how soon am I going to move, or how soon am I going to, have to leave this place? You just start becoming like hopeless in a way.
Nice. Yeah. So it's kind of like you can't really make friends because you're going to lose them. You can't even get comfortable at a house because you might get moved from that house anyway. So
yeah, well, not only that too, it just becomes a part of like who you are. For me, I never really tried to get close to the people that was fostering me, because I knew it was only going to be a matter of time before I had to move somewhere else. Or when it came to being in school or talking to somebody or making friends, I became closed off after a while. And to me, it was pointless to try to make friends, knowing that wasn't ever going to be a permanent, solution or a permanent stay when it came to, living with people. And I can feel like a lot of kids would relate, at least from my generation of kids that were in foster care. It was very difficult to open up. It was very difficult to voice your opinion out there, because you try to build a bond with somebody, and then 3-4 weeks later, you get placed somewhere else, or you get put back into the system, and you're waiting for however long it is to try to find somebody else.
Man, that's got to be tough, man. And I know I had, you know me, I had kids in my house, and I heard a lot of the stories. It's such a hard situation all around, and some of the parents that are out there, I think some of them were in it for the right reasons, and some are not. Some are, and sometimes I don't think they realize what they're doing or what they're not doing. You know, and let's face it, you know, I had a lot of kids come through my house. You knew plenty of them. I wasn't perfect either with all of them. You know, there were some that I just couldn't get through to, and I had to move forward on because it was messing up the house. So did you find it that, did you ever, looking back at your age now, do you ever see yourself and think, okay, I did do some things that I could have done better while I was in these homes? I'm just wondering, you know, like you know, I had a kid who straight broke my window and stole stuff. So, oh, that's a negative. So give me 2 positives. But did you find yourself, you know, looking back at yourself and thinking, you know, I could have made better choices? Or you were a pretty good kid, if I remember correctly.
I had a couple of hiccups, and I guess for my particular situation, it was just there was like a rough patch pretty much when I was in Boys Town, let's say, because I was in there for a couple of years. I think about 3 or 4 years, if I remember. And I guess I could have been the same person I was and just stayed quiet and, you know, not tried to make friends and not talk to anybody, because like I said, by that point, it was just like another place. And I was getting closer to, you know, aging out of the system. But they kind of helped break me out of my shell. I wish I could have gone back and been more persistent at breaking out of my shell sooner, because, you know, I didn't know anything about that place. You know, I came home one day and this van was there and these people were there and they were ready to take me, you know. And
you know, let's help the viewers understand. So in the foster care system back then, there was a place called Boys Town. Boys Town is another agency like NIAP. However, they're a little bit more, I want to say they're a little more strict, right? They're a little more, can you share with us how Boys Town, how they worked?
Okay, so pretty much they do interviews, whether it's with the kid or without. Whether, like for my instance, I was staying with my grandfather for a month and he was too sick to take care of me and my 3 sisters at the time. And I had just gotten out of foster care because he was trying to foster me. They have a portfolio of your whole life, every incident that you've had, like every house, every detail about you. And they determine with their people in the office whether you're going to be a good fit for their program or not. And they normally don't take kids, you know, past 13, 14, 15 because of their history, and it's case-by-case scenario. It's harder for them to try to mold a kid in a positive way because around those age years, they're less prone to trying to listen. They're less prone to trying to follow instructions, you know. I guess they had made an exception for me. So, you know, looking back on it now, I am grateful. But a lot of kids get rejected due to them not meeting the criteria, like so to say. So when you get placed in, you're given a set of skills based on your history. Whether it's like expressing feelings appropriately, like say I struggled with communicating honestly, expressing feelings appropriately, and, you know, just simple day-to-day tasks. So you'll be given those tasks as a set of skills, and they give you a point card system, and there's different tiers to those point cards. There's like daily, weekly, and then there's achievement. I believe there's one in between. I forgot. But you have to make conversations. You have to do certain things and have certain skills, like in a scenario like something like this, how we're talking and everything like that. That would award me a certain amount of points, and I'd have to hit that goal every single day to be able to knock off of, you know, 50,000 points or 300,000 points. It all depends on, you know, like I said, case by case scenario. Everybody's case is different, but in my opinion, that really stood a test of time because there were kids in my foster house, because Boys Town, they had 3 boys' houses and 2 girls' houses, and there were 6 kids to each house, and they had a foster parent and a foster mom. So they stayed with us 24/7. We all lived in a single house, and then when they wanted a break, there would be an assistant family teacher that would come in. So these people were engaged with us pretty much 24/7. So a lot of kids struggled to move up in the point system, you know, from daily to weekly 6, and from weekly 6 to weekly 3. You know, sometimes you could go back from weekly 3, which you're pretty much almost, you know, no point card, none of that stuff, because that's what achievement is. When you're at achievement, you pretty much have mastered all of the skills that you have been given. And every time that you, I guess, go up in the levels, you're given a different set of skills. It's all to try to make you into nothing but a positive person. That way, everything that you struggled with in the past and everything that you're kind of still struggling with now, at the end of the day, that you'll be, you know, almost 100% good at. That's pretty much to sum it up, long story long. But
No, that's good. No, I appreciate that. And I think, you know, I know Boys Town is not happening anymore. The houses have been given up or whatnot. I'm not sure what they're doing. I know they're in schools now, but they're not, I don't think they have group homes anymore.
yeah, so the funding actually fell through. A lot of our funding came from the UFC. But yeah, the houses got sold, and they only have an office off of Mojave. They still have family teachers, but they do house calls now. So they don't have a house that, you know, kids can go to. Well, I don't know too much about that scenario, because I was one of the last kids to leave before they fully shut down.
So this house pretty much gave you way more structure. Am I right? Compared to all the other homes?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me ask you, with that structure yourself, did you find that to be a great place to be for you? Did it work for you? Did Boys Town work for you? When you finally went there, did you feel like
at first?
Did you freeze?
Honestly, at first, I feel like I just felt like another place. I didn't know how temporary or how permanent it was going to be. But after I kind of just sat in the back, I guess, you know, the wolf in sheep skin, I just kind of sat back and just kind of watched how everything was. I started to see that this place could be a positive outcome on the rest of my life. I still do certain things that I had learned in Boys Town back then that I still integrate into my life now, especially with my kids and my day, you know, my every day-to-day life. Just because that structure was so, it was so important to me after I realized, you know, how good it can be. Like I said, I still use it from day to day, you know, to this day. And I've been out of foster care now for, I think, over like 10 years.
So it's definitely left something in you. It's definitely done that over time, looking back.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other positive memories that you can think of besides Boys Town and with a foster home? And what can you tell me about those, and what are they? As quick as you can. You don't have to tell too much of a story.
Yeah. Not really, other than aside from living with you for, you know, about like 6 months. I don't think anything has came close or tried or you know, can top Boys Town. My experiences with the other homes weren't really that good. And like I said, I know it's case by case scenario, but I guess my most positive outcome has been through Boys Town, and also, you know, meeting you and some of your kids and just building a foundation with you. I still talk to my foster parents to this day as well. So
that's good.
Yeah, I guess to sum it up, none of my houses that I've been in can compare to Boys Town.
Because you made that bonding friendship there. You were able to do it. You were there for, you know, how long were you there for again? You remember?
About 4 years.
Yeah, so you were able to finally break down a little bit. And as you get older, you get into your teens, you tend to become your own person. You tend to start talking more. That goes across the board. So when you're little and young and you're getting thrown from house to house, you're definitely going to be quiet and not know what to do. That happens with all the ones that are young and small. And
I don't know. Speaking from a kid's aspect too, like I said, I felt that way after a while because it just became a repetitive thing, and I just felt like there was no end to it. But when I had gotten into Boys Town, I chose to give it a chance, although I had given every other place a chance. But after sitting back and watching how that program worked and being able to understand what the outcome could be, as long as I, put my nose to the grindstone and I just did what I had to do. Like I said, I wish I could go back and redo it again, and try to make some improvements, as in me being able to be more engaging at the beginning instead of being so closed off. But I mean, it was a very good experience for me as well.
Codie, let me ask you a question. Have you ever run away from a foster home? Like you ran away and never went back and got moved somewhere? Okay. How old were you when you ran away?
Probably about 12, 13.
Okay. Let me ask you, what was going on in your head when you ran away? Like really, like I want you to go back in time, focus, and think about really deep down what made you run away. And if it's too in depth because of a situation that happened, you don't have to tell us the details, but just kind of help us understand. Because what happens, a lot of these kids, a lot of you guys run away. Right? And I had it even in my house, dude. A lot of the kids, them. But it's not the typical. They don't run away for the typical reasons. And I just wanted to hear your feelings on it and what you went through when you ran away.
Well, compared to how it was in Boys Town, some of the kids running away, and I guess compared to some of the kids that I knew that were in your program that ran away, were for, I guess, it's just like if a regular son and father were to get in an argument and they run away. That's the way I see it when it was in Boys Town and when it was with the kids in your place. It was over a disagreement. Nope, you can't have snacks this early or something like that. And I've seen it happen plenty of times. I have had to run away from situations like when it had come to abuse or the lack of like nurturing, I guess, and it's not so like getting along with the kids, because I had that issue too. I've had to run away for, just getting into too many fights with the other foster kids, or I was in a house where it was a mother and father and they had their own kid. And I constantly had to deal with hearing from that kid that I was going to be the one to try to replace him, this, that, and the other. And the other incidents was, like I said, it did have to do with abuse. So I physically couldn't be there any longer because I genuinely at that time feared for my life. And I just didn't feel like calling the cops would do anything, because another issue I had in the past was some of these people weren't in it for the right intentions and they just wanted the money. And as long as I had a bed, there was food in the fridge and the pantry, and then I had clothes on my back, nobody would really bat an eye about it. So I felt like at a young age, my voice didn't have any effect. So I just opted out for the next best thing. If I had the capability to run away and fend for myself for a little bit before I was either taken back to Child Haven or placed somewhere else, I was definitely going to jump on that opportunity, because I just couldn't be in a house that I was, being abused in.
Right. Well, it's rough, man. It's rough. I like that you pointed out why some of the kids run away too. They run away just because. But like disagreements and then you run away. It's crazy because I know I had disagreements with my dad. I never ran, but I get why you do it, because you're just going to probably get kicked to the curb anyway. So you might as well run away and beat them to it.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I see it more as, in some cases, not all, but I see it more as control. You have control of the outcome if you run away rather than keep getting into issues and then you become the bad guy, right?
Well, some of these kids that were in Boys Town, like I said, some of these kids that were in your house, they wanted to have, I guess not more freedom to say that, just like with certain stuff, there were kids in my foster house that were eating all the food at night. And then they started putting locks on the doors and everything. This wasn't in Boys Town. This was in a house before. And I guess times were tough for these foster parents, and they were trying to have a sit down and a talk about, we need to start portioning food and this and that. And one of the kids just got up and, was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to get starved over here. And they just took off. And I've seen people as little as a disagreement, like you didn't do your schoolwork at school, what's going on? You're going to sit down until your schoolwork's completed, and bam, they take off. I'm not going to listen to this. You're not my parents.
Yeah. And these are typically the teenage kids, And so one of the things I want to point out about that kind of stuff, Codie, and this is another reason why I think my house was better at that. I really focused on giving the kids a voice when they walk in the door. I focused on having everybody come as a group and talk and give them their voice. And if you have a problem with someone else in the house, let's talk about it. And I became Dr. Phil, and it enabled everybody to kind of feel like they were a part of a team. And I think that's why a lot of kids lasted a lot longer at my house. But we still had the runaways. And I found it that all the kids liked to run away in the summertime because they wanted to go out and party with their friends. They were so used to doing that while they're in foster care, the summer months. They would find each other and go hang out and party and sleep at each other's houses wherever they could find it. And again, this is all teenagers. This is all 15 and up, maybe a little bit younger sometimes. And that's one thing, though. But that comes from being in the system.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Like I said, when I was that age, the running away was the last thing on my mind. When I was like 16, 17, I really chose to focus on trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I age out of the system. With some of the kids that I knew, and, when they had talked about, they want to run away or whatever like that, I tried to do my part and tell them, it's not worth it. A small disagreement like that, it's not worth it. This is going to really affect you, in the next coming years. You could have taken that time to try to invest your time into something else, or just so long as just a basis of communication. I mean, when it came to structure in your house, from what I've seen, because I was hanging out with your kids a lot. By far, compared to Boys Town, I know you did stuff a little bit different, but your house felt more genuine. You were way more engaged than the typical foster parent that I have seen, versus being in Boys Town. But again, I can't really compare you versus them because you have your own system and they have their own system.
Right. At the end of the day, I'm just happy that somebody else is doing well as well. I appreciate the kind words, but we need to find more people to be genuine, more people to do it for the right reasons. In fact, Codie, can you, if you had to pick the perfect foster home as a kid, just look back and describe that, like if you were ever sitting there as a young boy dreaming of the perfect foster home, can you just give me a description of that right now?
Yeah, I guess.
When you're on the spot, come on.
I mean, just being able to want to come home after school, or just looking forward to hanging out with my foster parents, going to do the little things. I'm not much of a person that likes to go out, that likes to party. I'm more of a disciplined type of person. I just looked forward so much to being able to have that father and mother figure. Just nothing but consistent love. I get it. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be times where we don't see eye to eye. But for me, I always dreamt about just having that engagement to feel like a normal kid. And that's what I tried to strive to find the most And I really didn't find that until the last few years of my being in foster care before I aged out. I actually felt, I guess, not like I had a purpose, because at some point, I can probably speak for a lot of kids, they probably just lost their purpose. They just gave up. And I tried so hard until I aged out to be able to find either a father or a mother or a family, that would be able to fulfill that. Because I'm pretty sure that that's all a kid wants. They just want to feel loved. And yeah, I guess to describe it, that's really what I was looking for, was just to feel like this home would be more permanent, to feel the engagement from the mother and the father figure, to just feel like I can amount to something, that all of the bad things are over with. It's not just another day. I guess, yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Let me ask you this. So you talked about aging out. You wanted to learn more about that. Did you end up doing a program through Briscoe Town, Boys Town? Did you do one for aging out? What is that called?
I was in Seeds to Succeed, but that didn't have anything to do with Boys Town. So
you didn't do the independent living program?
No.
Okay.
So the only thing that we got was, I think it was like $1,000 or $2,000 when we aged out, and then we also got a laptop. When you go from being 15, 16, you go from a group of people that's like your foster care workers and all of that, you get assigned an independent living worker. And for me, so to say, it all went smooth until the funding fell through. Then it was kind of chaos from there. And I don't really blame Boys Town for that, because I didn't stay with my foster parents all the way up until I had to leave, because they left the program before I did. So I was placed with another house next door. And it was hard to age out. I felt like if the funding wouldn't have fallen through so fast, I probably would have been able to transition easier from being in foster care to kind of being on my own. And in my opinion, that was so important, because I could have very much well ended up from having a place to not having a place, which I didn't have a place for a while. And if it wasn't for me taking on the fighting aspect of it, because that's something that Boys Town offered. They had a partnership with the UFC, so I was able to go and fight and train and stuff like that. If it wasn't for that specific aspect, I felt like I would have fell flat on my face. And the structure to transition me from being in foster care to being like, on my own, it was very difficult. And I felt like that was important. I felt like there should be more attention towards that transition-wise. But as in like programs, no, I wasn't in any programs like that. So,
yeah, I know.
I
know there were some of my kids were in them, and they stayed in them till they were 22 years old, and they were able to live at a place that was part of that program, and they had kind of like a big brother dad that was there for them. I'm actually in the process of trying to get NIAP to start an independent living program called Success. And it's something that I found somebody who has a great program to help the kids learn, start at age 15 and work them way up. So I'm hoping to implement that pretty soon. So yeah, man. I do have, what was that last question I was thinking of? Oh, I think where this is going with you today, I think we can end on this for you. Is there any advice that you would give to anyone who's considering becoming a foster?
Stay committed.
Stay committed?
I get that some people might be a foster due to the fact that it could be scary dealing with kids and having the potential of them running away, or, stuff not working out once or twice, the first time. Maybe you take on a kid and it doesn't work out, and you get upset. I know some people are emotional when it comes to trying to help others. But I guess to add on to like anybody that's willing to become a foster parent, just stay consistent with it. And please don't ever give up on doing it. If it's really a passion that you want to do, just, in my opinion, it needs to be 100% or nothing. There's really no in between. And I know at times that it may be a lot of work, but these kids really depend on you, because you are going to be a part of their lives that could affect them in either a positive or a negative way, for the next, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I really encourage those people to just be there for these kids.
And I'm going to piggyback that a little bit, Codie. I fostered for a while, and I had a lot of kids come to my house, and there were often times where I felt like I wasn't appreciated. There was often times where I felt like I couldn't do my job. There was often times where I just felt like I wasn't good enough to do what I was doing. But then over time, I've had some of you guys reach out to me over the years and just say a couple things to make me feel so amazing, man, and grateful for. I learned a lot from you guys too, and the other night you and I were talking, and I was on the phone, so you didn't know it, but you got me a little teary-eyed, brother, and I appreciate the kind words that you gave me. I wish things were always different for everyone, but I look at life like this. You are where you are. The past is a past. We got to learn from the past, and now we got to move forward. And there's nobody to make excuses except yourself. You make the choices from this point on. And it stinks that you're in foster care. It stinks that you were in foster care, but you're alive, and you can make things happen no matter what. Just you. It's a mindset. Change your mindset, move forward, and be strong. I know it's not easy. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy. But if you don't want to listen to what I have to say right now, you're making it harder on yourself. All right, Codie, thank you so much. I'm going to do my sign off here, and we'll see you soon. It's going to be a wrap for the episode of Brisco Bridge to Foster Care, Nevada. I want to thank Codie for coming out, sharing his story. It's voices like that are going to help people understand and shed a light on foster care. Thank you guys for having me. Yeah. Before we go, just a quick reminder, if you're interested in learning more about getting involved, you have my phone number right here. You have our website. You can also, I'm starting a weekly foster care informational brunch. That's right. I will be there every Thursday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Union Biscuit. This is behind IKEA. If you can make it there, come on down. It's a great way to ask questions, connect, and I love to feed people, because breaking bread together is the best way to become a family together. And don't forget, coming up June 26th, we have our 6 to 8 p.m. Knights of the Round Table Business Mixer, sponsored by the National Youth Advocate Program, because we need other businesses to come together and help us, and by that we help them. It's a great way to network and blah, blah, blah. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, opening your home to foster care doesn't just help a child. It'll also change your life too. That's it. Thank you so much, Codie. You rock, brother. And we are
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.